Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the
Got
What's in
way
Your
too
Head
much
podcast.
crap on my screen.
Digitized live from the ACT Computer Studios in Cape Coral, Florida, it's the What's in Your Head podcast with your hosts Gordon and Don Abernathy.
What's up, OG5? It's a Tuesday, and Larry and I are kicking it live. Gordon is out because he has sore throat, strep throat. Anyhow, he sounds like Tom Waits with a bad sore throat. He cannot talk at all. He took the night off, but joining us here in Cape Coral, Florida, is returning to the show once again is local comedian and all-around good guy, Larry Venturino. Larry, what is going on, friend?
Not much. How you doing, Don? Thanks
Good.
for having me on.
No worries, man. Thanks for coming on. So, how was your Memorial Day weekend?
Oh man, it's like it went by. I have no idea what even happened. It was so busy with my kids. Like sport, like they had a football game. They work at the comedy club. I don't know what. We played basketball. I don't know where I was. Like we did all these different things, and yeah, it's kind of just flew by.
So, what's going on at the comedy club? I know you guys got a pretty exciting show coming up here soon on June 6th, right?
Yeah, it's about a few weeks ago. I was asked to do the show. It's for the LMAO network. I guess it streams on Roku.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it's like it gets out to like millions of different homes and whatnot. But it's like a live taping of a comedy show. I think there's like 8 of us that are on the show. They've done one other. They've done one other shoot for like local people. It was up in like Port Charlotte, probably about a month or 2 ago, and I think they've shot other places as well. But now they're coming to the Laugh-In Comedy Cafe in Fort Myers, and we're doing a show there, and I'm on it. So it's like everyone does like maybe 8 to 10 minute sets, and then Jamie Morgan, who actually owns the Laugh-In, he's the headliner. So I think he does around 20 minutes.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be you, Jamie, AJ Wilkerson, who's been on the show before. He's a funny comic. He's on TikTok at Captain Autism. Nathan Wallace, Ronan Wallace, brothers? Yes, perhaps, maybe. Or maybe even son. He looks pretty damn young.
It's his son.
That would be interesting. Father-son show. I mean,
yeah.
It'd be interesting to see the comedy in there. Jason, I'm reading like the super small, so forgive me, Jason. I'm like reading these super small fonts. It looks like Jason, either Dam or Dame. And
it's Dom, Jason Dom.
Jason Dom, and then Devin Papanopoulos.
Yeah.
And then Stacy Steele, the host. Yeah, I'm like reading a super small icon here. That's super cool. I noticed the other day, I know it was originally a TV show, but now I guess they have an entire channel, comedy.com or comedycom or something like that.
Yeah, Comedy TV or something.
Yeah, comedy.tv. It was like originally a TV show, and now they're making a whole channel out of it. And I know they have Comics Unleashed, which was a show in the early to mid 2000s. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of nice to see. I mean, it's pretty sad that Comedy Central is much like, owned by the same people, so go figure. Much like MTV, they're a channel that does pay music and or comedy. And when you and I were growing up, they were the Comedy Channel, and it was 24 hours of like, I don't know, 2 to 3 minute stand-up sets. And like if it wasn't the stand-up sets, it would just be reruns of Kids in the Hall.
Yeah, which was awesome. Which is also awesome. But if you remember correctly too, it was the Ha Network before Comedy Central.
It was Ha Network and then Comedy Channel and then I think Comedy Central.
Yeah. So, but like you're right, they would constantly have different stand-up specials or just random like bits here and there, and that's where I got hooked on stand-up, was watching all those different shows all day long, basically from looking at elementary school, and then of course being a big Kids in the Hall fan and watching them and whatnot on that channel. But now it's like MTV, like they don't really do much as far as funny things.
It looks like MTV was also the original owner of Ha. I'm looking at the Wikipedia right here. Unlike the Comedy Channel, which focused on stand-up comedy specials and clips of classic comedy feature films, Ha programming centered largely on acquired off-network situation comedies of the 1950s and 1970s. Some cable providers, particularly those owned by Viacom and Cablevision, carried the channel under a channel shared agreement in which they would air on the same channel space for the fellow Viacom-owned blah, blah, blah. And then it looks like, it changed to Comedy Central, and then was also Comedy TV for a while.
Yeah.
I miss those days. I just and then I think when it went from Comedy Channel to Comedy or Central, they still did a stand-up comedians at first, but then they slowly inundated it with Saturday Night Live reruns, and then it slowly started going away from stand-up comedy acts to. I wonder. Now I don't know about this, and I would think the answer would be no, but you would probably know a little bit better. Did stand-up comedians have royalties of their content back in the 80s and early 90s?
Oh man, I'm not really sure. I would think so if they had something that was being played on TV. I would think that you would have some type of publishing rights to this or something if they're playing your material. They can probably do whatever if you film for that show. They probably have control over it, but I'm sure they paid them something.
That's what I'm thinking. Obviously, if they're playing a stand-up bit like you did on HBO, then HBO would get paid the royalties. But like if you're in the early days, they were filming like people's sets from like the Improv, and then what's Pauly Shore's mom's joint out in L.A.
The Comedy Store.
Yeah, a lot of that early stuff was just like recordings of stand-up bits. So I wonder if maybe that's kind of what killed it. It was probably cheaper to pay for one syndicated price for a half hour of Kids in the Hall or an hour versus Saturday Night Live versus paying the royalties on 43 different stand-up acts that you would pay in that half hour or that hour time slot. So maybe that kind of was it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it would be people didn't have interest. My wheels are spinning because I was going to say I can't imagine it would be people didn't have interest in stand-up comedy, therefore the ratings weren't there. But what tends to happen is people have interest in something, the ratings go up, people who don't know what the hell they're talking about get involved, and then they change things, and then things fall on their face. Kind of like how the Discovery Channel destroys every show they ever have on. Look at American Restoration. They kill that show. I know, let's take a very popular show where people restore antiques and then take out the restoration process, and we'll just replace it with somebody drops off a cooler. Then we'll send Rick's son and hapless brother out to go pounce around a junkyard for 30 minutes, and then have them come pick up the item without showing the restoration process, and then season and a half later wonder why the show fell on its face. The first 2.5 to 3 seasons that were super popular showed them actually doing the restoration process. I've said it on the show before, but it would be kind of like having Bob Vila's This Old House, but without them actually working on the damn house, but instead having Bob go shop at Sears for 20 minutes. I don't think it would have had the long run that it saw all the while.
Yeah. Right.
What's up, Chris Quentin?
And now you have all these stand-up specials and stuff on like all the other streaming networks or streaming, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Netflix or Prime or whatever. And so people obviously want to see these things. But
the sad thing is, when it comes like the Netflix, if you talk to the big names who's had multiple specials on there, they'll say, the first one Netflix wouldn't buy. And so I actually had to go out and spend my own money, create my own production company, make it on my own dime, and then go back to them and then show them the finished product, and then they're ready to jump on board.
Right.
And so it's like almost if you don't already have a decent following or immaculate credit and 2 houses to mortgage and 3 credit cards to max out, how are you going to create that special to then hope Netflix will turn around and pick up?
And I heard, like, I don't know too much about this stuff too, but like the like Amazon Prime and whatnot, you can kind of shop almost like an indie film or indie short film or something to them, and if people watch it, they'll keep it on there. But if it doesn't have a certain amount of viewers, whatever, it leaves pretty quickly. You know what I mean? I guess it would be like just like the movie theaters where you're in and out in one weekend. But they want you to have some type of the thing to catch on a little bit.
It kind of makes sense because there's only so much room on that dashboard. Obviously, they have all the room in the world on the servers, but let's be honest. How many times have you gone to Netflix, Amazon Prime, By the way, isn't it weird how Amazon and some of the other services, their dashboards are like impossible to use compared to Netflix? And I would imagine that Netflix has a copyright on that layout, which is why everybody else is so different. You wouldn't think that something like that would make a huge difference, but it's like I find myself fumbling around Amazon's like dashboard where to the point like after 2 minutes I just log out and say, fuck it, can't handle this.
Yeah.
But my point being is since there's only so much real estate on that dashboard and most people don't actually go searching out for new movies, kind of like you said, if it's not picking up, they don't want to waste that landscape that either they're going to kick it out of the network altogether or they'll just bury it in a search that no one will ever look for.
Right. So, yeah, who knows?
How is comedy been lately now that things are opening back up?
Oh man, we live in America, we live in Florida, so and things have been pretty open for a long time. Like we've been doing shows at the Laugh-In, since last July, something like that. So I mean, they were closed for I think 71 days, from March to whatever 71 days is. So is that May, June? I don't know. And we started doing shows, and they were going by all the restrictions and making sure that they were safe, and that so that when people did come, they felt comfortable and that they felt everything was being taken care of. But Laugh-In was the first club in America to reopen. Really? During COVID, and so we did a show. I can't remember what we did. I can't remember who the headliner was, but there was like a few of us on the show, and there was a host, and then I think I was the first guest spot, and I bombed. And I was really well. What's it like? Really what's it like to take off an entire year? It's one thing if you're a stand-up who's been on tour. You're doing shows once a week for like the last 10 years. But when you're a stand-up who you were slowly starting to get some shows in New York, you're getting a couple out in Vegas, and you're really starting to get some shows on your calendar and get some reps under your belt, and then all of a sudden, shit shuts down for 8 months. Yeah. Well. But again, Fort Myers, I mean, it was shut down for like a couple of months, and so there was a couple of months of not doing anything except writing, which was really good. And then I was doing some of the Zoom shows with Dat Fan out in Los Angeles, so I was trying to work on some stuff. And I said I bombed the first guest set because I was like so excited. Like I worked on all this new material, and I kind of sometimes I like to take a risk and just do stuff that I think will work or whatever, especially if it's only like a guest spot, and like people just weren't into some of the stuff that I had been working on. In hindsight, do you think that was a mistake coming out with a new material on a format that you've really never done before? You think maybe you should have brought up? I'm talking about I tried it on Zoom. I tried it on the Zoom show. Some of it worked, and when I did it live for the first time, it didn't really do well at all. Some stuff worked, some stuff didn't, and maybe it was just getting back into things because since I've used some of that material and it tweaked it and it works now, but it was just kind of like a bummer that like I was like really working hard, like I'm gonna come out here like brand new stuff, and it was like people just weren't into it, so whatever, it doesn't matter. But it was fun just to be able to be down here and have an opportunity to do live shows pretty much all this time, because we keep on running into some of these headliners who are coming to the club or whatever, and they're like, this is my first weekend back in a year, and we're like, yeah, we've been doing shows this whole time. No, not to be a dick, not to attack people, but I've been listening to Adam Carolla's podcast forever, and all like last year, he's touring Texas, he's playing Florida, he's going to Tennessee, basically doing a circuit of 3 states that are open, and then he would have comedians coming on the show, and they're like, "Oh man, you're flying? Oh, I'm not quite there yet." It's like some of these cats are saying, "Oh man, I couldn't do a show for last year." It's like, why not? You coulda. Yeah. There's been venues that would have loved to have you in Florida. There are venues that would have loved to have had you in Texas. And anyone who listens to Joe Rogan knows that Austin's blowing up. There are like more and more comedians are moving out there. They're actually opening up more clubs. They're trying to make that the new town for comedy in the country. Yeah. Right. And so it's like maybe if your own
paranoia got out of the way a little bit. Now I understand comedians tend to be by nature a little goofy, a little batshit. But if your own paranoias weren't holding you down, you could have played after the first 3 months because there was plenty of venues out there that were having live people.
Yeah, and they were still, these places, even though they were open, they were still under some restrictions. So they were playing it safe. I think everyone was being cautious. So you could do these shows safely and just kind of work at it. But yeah, I think people just wallowed in self-pity, waiting for someone to tell them that they were allowed to do something in this country. I don't know.
It seems like there's a lot of that going on, and that really concerns me. But I don't know, man. It's just batshit crazy. And once again, you guys got a show coming up on June 6th where you're recording for a network. It's actually the network television taping for the LMAO. LMAO network taping with Naomi Wallace, Larry Venturino, and Jamie Morgan. Basically, if you guys want tickets, head over to laughingcomedycafe.com. If you can't figure out how to spell that, just Google Laughing Comedy Cafe and it'll take you right there. You can add tickets right there. General admission's only $10. VIP's $15, which seats you closer to the stage so Larry and company can make fun of you because that's what happens when you sit closer to the stage. What's up, John Kraft, tuning in? Hey, question for you. Your kids are they 18 now or are they still minors?
No, they're 15 and 16.
Oh, great. They're still, but no, I'm not getting all pervy. Here's the reason I ask. Last year when COVID closed the schools down, and we know how people feel about schools being the vehicle for lunches for the community. Did you get one of those EBT cards in the mail with the apple on it for the school kids, or like basically taking the money that was allocated for school lunches and then giving it to parents so their kids could eat? Did you get one of those in the mail last year?
I didn't get it. My kids are homeschooled, so
see, you're one of those weird Christian people who homeschool their kids before COVID happened.
Well, yeah, not even close. But yeah, we do it for other reasons. But
I'll just play it with you.
But yeah, we lucked out, man. Like we were already doing this before everything shut down, and we're like, yeah, we're just gonna continue to do our routine. And so we didn't have to worry about this stuff.
Well, interestingly enough, now you homeschooled your kids. Were you guys on the Lee virtual program, or were you doing one of those your own self-curriculum things?
We do it's not strictly self-curriculum, but it's like we use other different resources like Khan Academy and things like that, which is a good resource. It basically has every class you can possibly take from like kindergarten to senior in high school and even college prep stuff and blah, blah, blah. And so we use a lot of that. So it's like basically there's someone teaching them other than me, but and we work, a lot of stuff is on the computer, but it's basically just what I want them to learn or what we want to learn. So, because what I didn't know before COVID is the reason Lee County schools were so easily able to switch to homeschooling is, I did know every kid at the schools, they get Chromebooks, but before COVID ever happened, as a way to help with parents who homeschool, to help them find curriculum easier, they offered the Lee County distance learning. So you were technically a student of Lee County schools, but you weren't a student of any particular school. And so what happened is when COVID hit, they basically just made that distance learning available for all the students, and that's how we were able to transition so quickly. And then this year, the weird thing is you could either go back to school, you could do distance learning or virtual learning. And I was like, well, what's the difference? Well, apparently if you're distance learning, you're still technically a student of a particular school, so that if you decide to go back, you're not stuck on the waiting list due to the weird, super wide range of school choice we have here. But if parents made a mistake and not knowing the difference and they signed you up for virtual schooling, then you were no longer a student of that school. And if you decided to go back, if there was no room on that waiting list, you couldn't go back to the school you wanted to go to. But anyhow, bring all that rigmarole up is because of this. Last year when the distance learning started, we never signed up for it because we wouldn't have been eligible for it anyhow, but we got this EBT card in the mail and it had an apple on it. And it apparently is because so many students rely on schools to feed them that part of the COVID thing is basically every student who's enrolled, their parents are going to get one of these cards.
And I think the thing had, I don't know, between $200 and $400 on it. Okay, cool, whatever. Let's go buy some food.
Yeah.
School's going to be over in like 3 weeks. And in the mail today, we got another one of these cards. And so we went to activate it, which, by the way, for those of you who want government to run things, the website was not working. Imagine that. And so poor Carrie had spent like 35 minutes switching between phones and computers trying to get the website to load. And there's an 800 number on here, and I call it. Long story short, and the reason I bring this up, after setting up the key code and checking it out, it's like, thank you for enrolling in the system. Your balance is $20.46. It's like,
oh my God.
It's like, first off, I've lost more money in that in the time that I was trying to set this card up. Second of all, with hyperinflation, you can't even go to Tropical Smoothie, get 3 quesadillas and 3 smoothies for less than $37.11. So what kind of food you're going to buy at Publix? Maybe a block of cheese and some bread and maybe some peanut butter, and it's going to come out to about $19.87.
Oh,
so it's like, why even send the cards out? I mean, once again, I didn't enroll in it, and I'm sure somebody will happily have that $20, but it's like, really?
Yeah.
Between the mail, the setup of the computer system, and all that time, it's like $20, really? It's kind of an insult. Even just don't send the card out. Keep it. I don't want your $20.
Oh my God. Yeah.
How are your kids when it comes to doing family adventure type stuff and getting away from technology and getting out of the house and stuff?
Yeah, they're pretty good. Look, they actually were, they didn't have phones as early as a lot of the kids did.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other kids did, like their age. And of course now they use them a lot and blah blah blah. But it's like different things are restricted on there. But they're pretty good. Like, we are able to travel a lot and go different places, and a lot of times we don't use any of that stuff, or weren't using any of it. But we'll travel, like I said, to Vegas or California, or we're going up to Rhode Island and New York and stuff like that. And they're up to do anything, up to hang out, see people, hang out, go do different like adventures and stuff like that. So they want to have fun and do those kind of things. They're not just like completely reliant on technology. In fact, when I just say, no, we're not using that right now, they'll just put it away, and they're fine without it. So,
well, the reason I bring it up is it was Memorial Weekend, and we really didn't plan too much. And then yesterday we got a wild hair because I have a kayak, and I've been kayaking around my neighborhood, and we were interested in perhaps getting a tandem kayak for the family. But before you invest that sort of money, we're like, well, let's go rent one. So we grabbed my kayak, and I grabbed the kid and Carrie, and we ran up to Estero River Outfitters. And we rented a tandem kayak, and we were having a good time, and it was all good. But I discovered my daughter has about an hour and a half attention span before she's wanting to get back on the Xbox. So we rented it for like 3 hours, an hour and a half in. She's like, okay, we got to go. This is getting boring. My butt hurts. It's like, no. Sometimes to experience life, you got to deal with discomfort, and your butt hurting being one of them. And for those of you who've never been on a Estero River, a lot of it's like closed in, like you feel like you're in the Amazon. It's like 5 more years you're not gonna be able to get through here unless somebody comes through with a chainsaw. And we're rowing through there, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, speaking of Xbox, man, this would be like the perfect backdrop for like some video game. And it's like, I told her, it's like, open your eyes and look around. There's people like living in like nowhere, Illinois, or nowhere, Iowa, just sitting out on their farm, just staring out their corn crops, just wishing they could be on a kayak paddling down the river in Florida right now. Which, by the way, most people who live up north save up all their Christmas bonuses, vacation bonuses, and they spend a shit ton of money just to spend a week down here in the wintertime.
Right.
The Xbox will be there when you get home. I asked her, are you suffering from a fear of missing out? You're not missing out on anything. Call of Duty will be all right. But it's just like,
we do that stuff too. We love the Estero River. Like we go to Estero River Outfitters, and we'll kayak for a few hours and stuff like that. Like we've made it miles out. I think it's 4 miles out to Estero Bay, and then you had to turn around.
Yeah, we went
there once. What?
We went 2 miles out before we turned around because it looked like it was going to rain. But yeah, I got to looking on Google Maps like, holy shit, if we would have went another couple miles, we would have been out in the bay.
Yeah. So it's really beautiful. They love doing stuff like that. Like my older son will bring his fishing pole sometimes when we go kayaking as well, and they're fine with being out there. They love that. So they're okay not being on the Xbox for a while. So.
Now, we were talking about Netflix a little earlier, and we have a thing on here we call the Netflix binge-worthy, or not so binge-worthy, for the week. See that production value? See that?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the old Jimmy Stewart movie, Rear Window?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've seen probably bits and pieces of it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, even if you haven't seen bits and pieces of it, you've seen references to it because The Simpsons did their version of it. But for those you playing at home, Rear Window is the 1954 American mystery thriller directed by Alfred Hitchcock and written by John Michael Hayes, based on Cornwell Woolrich's 1942 short story, It Had to Be Murder. Originally released by Paramount Pictures to film star Jimmy Stewart, Grace Kelly, which, man, got to go back and see some screenshots of that, Wendell Corey, Thelma Ritter, and Raymond Burr. Every time I think of Raymond Burr, I think of the Beastie Boys song. Anyhow, the plot is a recuperating from a broken leg professional photographer LB Jeff Jeffries, there's an original name, is confined to a wheelchair in his apartment in Greenwich Village, Manhattan. His rear window looks out onto the courtyard of the other apartments during an intense heat wave, which makes sense because with the heat wave back then, no one had AC. Everybody opened up their windows, opened the blinds, and now you can see in. Long story short, he starts watching people, and he thinks he witnesses a murder. So just to bring everybody up to speed, here's a quick version. Somebody actually made a modern-day trailer of it because the original trailer was garbage, but here's a modern-day trailer, which is actually pretty cool.
I can smell trouble right here in this apartment. First you smash your leg, then you get to looking out the window, see things you shouldn't see. Trouble.
What, something big going on somewhere?
It's a big night.
Well, it's just an old run-of-the-mill Wednesday.
It's opening
Every time I
night
hear
the
Jimmy
last
Stewart, I think of
pressing week of LB
Dana
Jeff
Carvey.
Jeffries'
Oh, Dana Carvey. Oh, yeah.
Figured he went out several
I think
times
Jim
last
Carrey
night
did
in
it,
the
too.
rain carrying his sample case.
Well, he's a salesman, isn't he?
The salesman's looking out of his window, you see. It's no ordinary look. It's the kind of a look a man gives when he's afraid somebody might be watching him.
There's nothing to see.
There is something. I've seen it through that window. I've seen bickering and family quarrels and mysterious trips at
This
night
thing goes on for a
with
minute and a half. But you
knives
get the idea. Kind of like I said, he thinks he witnesses a murder, and it being an Alfred Hitchcock movie, chances are maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I said earlier, it even goes as far as The Simpsons kind of did their own version of it.
Art, I'm really sorry I've been ignoring you lately. I got carried away with being popular. But now that I'm unpopular again, I want you to know I'm here for you.
You can start making it up to me right now. Flanders is leaving the house. I want you to sneak in there
Bart
and
has a
bring me
broken
back
leg.
some evidence.
He's been watching out the window, been watching Flanders.
A human head.
Thinks Flanders is a murderer.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's back. Flanders is back. Lisa, get out of there. No, Lisa, don't go upstairs. You'll be trapped. An axe. He's got an axe. I'll save you, Lisa. Oh!
And so Carrie likes a lot of horror movies, and so we have two different Netflix accounts, and since she likes a lot of horror movies, the suggestions to her are different than the suggestions on my account. And the suggestion for a movie starring, I always get her mixed up. I always want to say Amy Schumer, but it's not. It's the other Amy. It's Amy Adams. This video suggestion pops up called The Woman in the Window.
Yeah.
The plot. Let's see. Woman in the Window is a 2021 American psychological thriller which was directed by Joe Wright from the screenplay by Tracy Letts based on the 2018 novel by the same name. I have some protests against that. The film follows a agoraphobic woman, Amy Adams, who begins to spy on her neighbors, Gary Oldman, Fred Herrick, and Julia Moore, and is witness to a crime in their apartment.
Oh, wow.
And
Original.
so Carrie starts watching this movie, and here's the trailer for this lovely cinema.
I'd say this was Walt
Oh no, that's the Army of the Dead. That's from the previous week. My bad.
Mr. Ward.
Oh look, after that setup,
How would
I
you like to make
failed. Oh wow, this is embarrassing. Where is my? Oh, apparently I didn't pull up my sounder. Anyhow,
Yeah.
I'm watching this movie, right? And I'm like 3 minutes in, and I see her staring out the windows. I'm like, this is that Jimmy Stewart movie.
Yeah.
So
no one's original.
yeah, and Carrie's like, no, this is based off a book, and we're watching it, and she's staring out the windows, and she's giving names to each person, and then she meets the neighbor, and she's agoraphobic, she can't leave the house, and then she's watching, and she thinks the neighbor murders his wife. I'm like, this is the Jimmy Stewart movie all over again. Produced by Fox 2000 Picture, the last film released under the label. That's not a good sign. The film was originally scheduled to be theater I can't pronounce this word. Theatrically released by 20th Century Studios in October 2019, but was delayed in May 2020 due to the re-editing after poor testing screenings. Well, when you have a movie that's based off a book that clearly ripped off Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock, the theatrical release was later canceled due to COVID-19. And its rights were sold to Netflix, which released the film in May 14th of 2021. Upon release, the film received scathing reviews from critics for most criticisms aimed at Wright's depiction of the screenplay, though the cast earned praise. Now, through all of this criticism, not one person has bothered to even say this is a direct ripoff of Rear Window. But hey, if you guys don't like to watch black and white films and you want to get an updated version, because this is the new woke Nate world, the all-women cast version of Rear Window, go on Netflix and watch The Woman in the Window. If you let go of the fact that it's a direct ripoff of Rear Window and you just take it for what it is, it's just something to watch. It really wasn't that bad of a flick. I just had to let it go. This thing was Rear Window ripoff, and just check it out. So after you've already watched Army of Dead, which that's another brain dead show. We talked about it last week. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
It's basically another zombie movie. The only difference is remember the original one of the original zombie movies from the 80s where the zombies was actually a creation of the military?
Yeah.
It's a spin-off of that, where the only difference is like if on the new one, if you get bitten by the military zombie, you become a smart zombie who can communicate. But if you get bitten by one of the subcategory zombies, then you just become one of the brain dead zombies that walk around like all the other zombie movies. And so there's two different categories of zombies, and it basically takes place in Las Vegas. Vegas has been walled off. The United States is going to drop a low yield atomic bomb on it to wipe them all out, and then it turns out well, we got to get the money that's in a safe below one of the casinos before they drop the A-bomb, and hijinks ensue. So after you watch that show, if you want to watch another rip-off movie, go check that one out.
They're all rip-offs. And no one's going to even know. Like seriously, our age, we know about Jimmy Stewart. We know about those movies and stuff like that. To be honest, if I saw that movie now, the new woman version of Rear Window, I might not have caught on as fast as you. I'm not a complete, I don't know tons and tons about some of the old movies, so I might not caught on, and I bet you they're banking on the fact that the majority of people would not catch on that they completely ripped off these movies and are just redoing them, Well, to give credit to where credit's due, the only reason I knew it was a Jimmy Stewart show is because for some reason in middle school, I don't know if he was a video file or whatever, but he made us watch, one of my teachers made us watch that, and then obviously I remember seeing the Simpsons version. And so I had 2 points of references in my brain, the whole theory of having a broken leg or the inability to leave your home, and then watch. And even in this movie, is she using binoculars? Yeah. No, she's pulling out a zoom-in CLR camera. So it's right there. I'm sure it's not a ripoff. It's called an homage. But But you said something interesting, and I've actually heard this. Even though everything's shot in digital, with the exception of artsy films. So hypothetically, you're saving money on film, but your high-end stars cost so much money nowadays.
because movie has become such a business model that basically all the big movie houses, they do not want to risk doing any original ideas. And so basically right now they are only developing projects that are based off of existing licenses. There, even though we had that movie a few years ago with the boxing robots and the guy who played X-Man, Wolverine, they are making a Rock'em Sock'em's Robots movie because it's already an existing license. They're making an Uno movie from the card game. So, like, literally, Hollywood has gotten to the point that they don't want to, with the exception of, like, the independent, quote-unquote, guys, the big picture house. That's why they're just flooding the market with these fucking superhero movies, these Fast and Furious movies, these movies that have names from toys. Like the Battleship movie had nothing to do with the game, but it was a title we all knew, and so they're relying on that. And, of course, as we learned with John Cena apologizing in Mandarin Chinese, because a majority of these movies make their box office money over in China because the in-theater movie experience is so popular over there compared to here that they make 3 to 4 times the amount of money in the theaters over there that most of our movies, basically, before they get released, they have to go and, like, obviously not all, but like all the big name movies, all the big powerhouses, they basically get viewed by like the Chinese ratings board and they'll make suggestions. That's why, and that really started, remember when they remade Red Dawn? Yeah. The original Red Dawn, the enemies were Russia and China. Well, can't offend the Chinese. I think it was Russia and Korea or something else. They actually had to go back and reshoot it because it was originally shot under the original script, and they had to go back and take all the Chinese logos out and like put in Korea or something else. But as a comedian, you deal with the woke movement, right? And people always ask you, well, what's it like to be a comedian in the time and day when people get offended? I got a new segment. We're going to break out today, even though Gordon's not here to enjoy it. This is the Digital 410's Week in Woke. Here we go.
And now, this week's list of common words or phrases that are no longer acceptable in woke society.
Dead naming. Misgendering. Transgenderism. Transgendered. Trans woman. Trans man. Homosexual. Sexual preference. Sex change. Mom. Dad. He. She. Master. Slave. Whitelist. Blacklist. Peanut gallery. Grandfathered. Grandfather clause. Gypped. Gyp. Spirit animal. Old people. Chairman. Salesman. Policeman. Bipolar. OCD. PTSD. Schizo. Psycho. Tone deaf. Afflicted by. Suffering from. Victim of mental illness. Normal. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Normal is on that list. And now this isn't anything I made up. This is from a website. You have a question about any of those, I can answer for you. There any of those not make those, you know, I can kind of get maybe slaved or enslaved if we're really, really trying hard. Yeah. But Peanut Gallery was one that struck me as weird because not me so much, but my parents' generation, they grew up watching Howdy Doody, and the kids in the audience were referred to as the Peanut Gallery. But apparently in 2021, Peanut Gallery is offensive and you shouldn't use it in your daily use. Peanut Gallery. This is a classic term and racist phrase that dates back to the late 19th century. Originally, this term was to describe the cheap seats in a theater. Okay, where's the race coming in that? However, it was also used to describe the upper balcony seats in the segregated theaters. A far better word is heckler.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so don't use Peanut Gallery in your act. I know you have like 4 or 5 jokes. I know it's been overused by comedians, but get rid of Peanut Gallery.
I remember I had a teacher in high school that would say, like, when people were taught, like, enough from the peanut gallery in the back or something like that. They were, if someone chimed in about something or wasn't, or they were just kind of like talking out of turn or whatever, he would use that. I mean, he probably should be murdered at this point.
Oh.
Yeah, probably should, yeah.
Well, he'll be murdered just for being an old person. Old
And
people.
He was white too, so.
Old people. Old people's on this list is number 16 of 21. When it comes to talking about age, it can be a bit touchy. The term, quote, old can seem to be a pejorative. Something that is obsolete or decrepit. Some don't like the word senior or elderly either. One force of accommodation or foreign, one force of God, I can't read tonight. Maybe it's the bourbon and the beer I've been drinking. The connotations are formed by how cultures see aging. Simply adding ER at the end of old, as in older, can often soften it. Really? We're at the point now where older is preferred over than old.
Yeah.
Also, signifying the actual age range you're talking about, 75 and older, say, negates the need for words like old or senior. Yeah. So, wait a minute, time out, hold up, stop. What are we supposed to call 12th graders in high school?
I don't know.
Those are the older students. It's starting to feel like
someone just told me the other day that I said something, oh, my son's going to be a sophomore, and apparently that word isn't supposed to be used anymore. So I don't think we should be, you're supposed to be using 10th grade, 11th grade.
I'm going to write that down and we'll add it to next week's list.
I mean, you can't be throwing the word sophomore around. I mean, come on.
Now, when it comes to chairman, salesman, or policeman, I haven't read the reason why, but I can only assume the word man is in there, but let's find out. Although many are now aware that police officer is better than policeman, it's important to be sure your terminology is general neutral when talking about other occupations. In parentheses, you want to be careful with freshmen or underclassmen.
Yeah.
Well, sophomore doesn't have the word man in it. You can choose first year and sophomores instead. Aha! Contradiction here. Here's another one. I can kind of understand schizo and psycho because that can be seen as obscure slang for people with a psychological issue.
Yeah.
But with all the people claiming to have bipolarness and OCD on Facebook, because remember when we were kids, no one had OCD, but 8.5 years ago, everybody started putting memes up on Facebook, and now everybody and their grandmother has OCD.
Yeah.
Bipolar, OCD, PTSD, schizo, and psycho.
Yeah.
It's best to simply never use any of these words. So wait a minute, if you're in the military, are we supposed to go back to shell shock?
Yeah.
Or
is that better?
Not to rip off George Carlin completely, or how about battle fatigue?
Yeah.
It went from shell shock to battle fatigue.
Oh my God.
See, it's best never to simply use any of these words in any way to describe an everyday or casual occurrence. Okay, I can agree with that with PTSD. I can agree with that because there's.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But what if someone's an actual psycho? You know what I mean? What if they put pineapple on pizza? What else are you gonna call them? Psychos. You know what I mean?
As an example, Larry, my computer is being bipolar today. You could potentially insult a person who has been diagnosed with any of these mental health issues or conditions as someone who knows someone who has. Now, that's the true outlier of this. They're not worried about... Who is a comedian? Speaking of words you can't use anymore. Who's a comedian said, for those of you who get offended when you call someone a retard, you're not offending the retarded person because they're too retarded to understand what you're talking about. You're offending the parents of the person. This is kind of right here, the very last one, or someone who knows someone who has.
Yeah.
So they're more.
Well, you know what? Yeah. Somebody knows somebody that has something and everything. So, I mean, we should just not talk anymore. just like everyone just be mutes at this point, I guess.
Well, as a comedian, you know more than anybody. A joke is funny until that mirror is reflecting back on the person who understands those conditions. You'll have somebody laughing at your jokes, and then you'll say something that strikes a little bit too close to home, and all of a sudden you're not funny as you were 2.5 seconds ago.
Yeah. I saw recently an audience member came up to one of the comics that was on the show and said that they really liked their show until they talked about a certain religion that person happened to be, and now they were completely offended and they didn't enjoy the rest of the show. That wasn't necessary to talk about. Why? Why? How do you know that comic isn't that same religion, or whatever? It doesn't even matter. You can't talk about just because it relates to your life. You can't talk about it. You know what I mean? You don't know me. I don't know you. If I say something, how do you know I'm not talking about something that was close to me, or joking about something that's something that happened to someone in my family? And this is the way that I cope with it, or whatever, is by joking about it on stage or whatever. You don't know one person to the next.
Yeah, like a good old molestation uncle joke. I mean, you don't know that didn't happen to me. Or half the people in our neighborhood growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have several of those. Yeah.
Normal. Normal was number 21.
Mm-hmm.
What's normal doing on this list, you ask? Too often, it's used as a label while differentiating data or behavior. If someone's evidence of, quote, normal behavior, or all those that don't, quote, abnormal, the word usual or typical works better. So basically, because there's so many people, see, as a Generation Xer, this confuses the living fuck out of me. We come from a generation who was raised to question authority and question answers, because a lot of our parents were hippies, and they were going counterculture against their parents who were World War II vets. And then obviously if your parents are hippies and you want to counterculture them, the earliest form was to swing hard right and be a 80s Reagan yuppie. But then the 80s and 90s was Generation X. So we took pride, you as someone who was in a straight edge punk band, you took pride in being a counterculture of counterculture. Punk rock is super counterculture, but by definition, a lot of punk rock was based around drugs, drinking, and anarchy, but the straight edgers was the counterculture to that. Yeah. It just like, to me, I thought it'd be, I was more attracted to being a quote-unquote nonconformist, so I intentionally listened to music that no other people listened to. I dressed the way that I wanted to. I never owned a pair I never owned a starter jacket. I never owned skids. I never owned a pair of bib overalls. I never owned a pair of Jordans. Never owned a pair of Reebok pumps. I was wearing skateboard shoes and all through my career. So it's so funny now that you see kids wearing Thrasher magazine shirts who, one, never even seen a Thrasher magazine because I don't know if they're still in print, but two, never even stepped foot on a goddamn skateboard. Longboards don't count. Longboards are skateboards for people who can't skate. I've said it, and I'm not going to apologize. But it's so weird to see people getting offended by the word normal because they may not be normal. Well, whatever happened? Yeah. Speaking of 60s and 70s terms, why don't you all bring back the phrase, let your freak flag fly? Yeah. I mean, why are you so upset about not being normal? Who the fuck wants to be normal? You should not
I tell my kids that all the time. I said, don't be normal people. Don't be regular people. Do something special with your life. Do something different. Be your own person. You know what I mean? And they're fighting against a bunch of the whole world. That's basically everyone has to be exactly the same right now. And I don't know.
Well, and the funny thing that comes from that is there's such a large group of people that are so easily offended to the point. You and I are big on TikTok right now. Well, I mean, you're big on TikTok, but we're big into TikTok. And, one of the problems Facebook had was people would read headlines but never the story. Yeah. Well, TikTok has its own equivalent. It's called they watch 60 seconds of a video and not the whole. 10 seconds of a 60-second video because 60 seconds is way too fucking long, and so people don't watch the video to its full conclusion to get the joke, and then they get offended by it. And so what that does is that opens up this whole new realm of troll videos where people like yourself, and I don't do it as much as you, but I have one or two of them, where we get these outrageous amount of views and flack by intentionally posting a video that if you took 60 seconds, watch it a second time and process what's being said, you'd realize that it's a joke, but people just, they don't get it. And one that is still blowing up for me was the one, well, it really wasn't a troll video per se. It was a truthful video, but it's the one where I was talking about the service times, where I duetted that guy. So, not so many people. I haven't checked the numbers, but I was talking about this last week. This is a perfect example of how cancel culture would work if you worked at let's say I worked at a corporation that was ran by, the new woke people. Yeah. They would see these comments and I'm getting like, oh my God, people hate this guy. Look, they're calling him an asshole, telling him he needs to be a human, calling him a jerk. Look, there's 123 people. We need to have a sit down and talk with him. Wait a minute. You want to have a sit down and talk because 123 people call me an asshole, but 10,000 people saw the video? So out of 10,000 people, 493 of them liked it. Yeah. 238 made a comment. And now that 238, 153 of them call me an asshole, and you're concerned about those 150 people. You're not concerned about the fact that 8,973 people could give two shits or fuck about the video that they didn't even bother to hit the like. But you're worried about out of the 200 people who did like it, there's 153 people who are offended by it. And that's how people lose their job, because we're given too much of a... Now, I'm going to actually use the dictionary definition of the word minority. It has nothing to do with race. Minority means a smaller amount of the smaller number of an over large people. Now minority just means race and income. But no, in this case, we're talking about a minority of people out of everybody who saw that video. They're speaking up. They're speaking the loudest, and it's so ridiculous. But you did some great ones where you intentionally just put up false information. And people are like so outraged, like, this guy don't know what he's talking about.
They've lost their minds. It's unbelievable. I just kind of like wanted to go that direction. I started with one video with Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson, and just saw how people just lost their minds that the information in that video wasn't accurate. And I acted completely serious about it. And even I respond to every comment on TikTok, unless I miss it somehow. But I respond to every single comment somebody makes, even if it's a minimal comment.
Or at least put a like. Even if somebody calls you an asshole, just put a heart next to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. But just the comments, just calling that I'm so stupid and I have no idea what I'm talking about. If I did any research, I'd know that what I put was not true. And you're losing your mind over a TikTok video. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That video has 617,000 views right now.
My personal one was the How Your Pool was where they shot the cover for the Soundgarden. Was it the Soundgarden Baby in the Pool album?
I said Foo Fighters.
Yeah, Foo Fighters
instead of Nirvana. And that has, I think, 217,000 views right now. And people, that didn't hit as bad
because of the Dave Grohl transition.
When I said Abbey Road was in Fort Myers, people from all over the world, especially
in Liverpool,
England, just bashing America and all these other things, like how stupid I was and blah blah blah, really losing their shit over the fact that I was saying Abbey Road was in Fort Myers. But then when I did the Nirvana Nevermind one. Some people got pissed, but a lot of people are playing along, and they'll oh man, I thought that was Alice in Chains or whatever it was, and they know that it's a joke. But some people are I think there's so many people are mentally ill, man. I'm not trying to joke about it, but there's so many scary people, psychos. You know the word you're not supposed to use? They're psychos.
Schizo.
If you're losing your mind over a TikTok video, you're a psycho.
I remember one of the first videos that I had that went semi-viral, and I think it's up to 600,000 views. I think viral was like 1 million or more, so I want to say semi-viral. And it wasn't even a troll video. Some guy, he was a great singer and a guitar player. He did Cage the Elephant's Ain't No Rest for the Wicked. And he said musicians duet this. But anybody who knows that song knows that there's only one instrument up until the first chorus. And that first, the first part of that song is the chorus doesn't kick in until like 59 and a half seconds. And so he's singing this beautiful version of Ain't No Rest for the Wicked. He's playing his guitar, and he said musicians duet this. And so I went out in the garage, I threw my bass on, and I'm pretending like we're playing on Saturday Night Live, and the camera's coming around, and I'm just going along, and I'm ready to play. And as soon as that note gets ready to hit, and it cuts to commercial, because the video ends. They hadn't got to that point of the song where the bass kicks in.
Yeah.
Just because you own a bass don't mean you're a bass player. Oh my God, he didn't even play a single note. What's wrong with this guy? Oh, I waited this entire time for that. And then other people's like, are you guys familiar with the song? There is the bass doesn't kick in until after and like all these people were angry. I sat through 60 seconds for that. He didn't even play a note, and I'm just laughing. I'm like, oh my God, these people are fucking dumb. Did they? And there's a few smart people like, that's kind of the joke. There is no bass line. This guy's asking people to duet a song that has no other instruments until after the video ends. That's the joke. Yeah. But I don't engage people because, as you know, if you want a video to go viral, especially on TikTok, the best videos to go viral are the ones that cause the people who watch it to argue amongst themselves, because every time they go back for rebuttal, the video gets another view. And so you want that kind of content that creates the audience to argue amongst themselves for the thing to blow up. And that's why it got 600,000 views, because people were fighting amongst themselves. And some people got the joke and some people didn't. And I just, the ones who don't get the joke are just so effing funny. And so this morning someone posted a in-store video. They didn't show, as real videos go, whenever there's a fight, you don't get the first part of the video because people don't pull out the cameras until the fight ensues. But apparently someone pissed off the woman at a Wendy's, and she's like throwing shakes out the window and trying to climb out the drive-through window to kick his ass. And so I stitched it because I have so many quote unquote people pissed off about me suggesting that you stick at the drive-through window when no one's behind you to run the service time up. I do edit, and I said, when someone won't get off your service timer. And I just posted just to reignite the fire of the people who were so pissed about my last video. It's just so fucking silly.
Oh man.
I'm just looking at my list of shit here. Oh, we can't have a good holiday here in Florida without, gunshots being fired. Did you hear about the shooting at Alani Kai this weekend?
Oh, on the beach, Fort Myers. Yeah,
right behind Alani Kai. Dateline, Fort Myers Beach, Florida. Shots were fired during a large fight on Fort Myers Beach on Monday afternoon, according to Lee County Sheriff's Office. During a busy memorial celebration, nothing says Memorial Weekend like a good shooting. During the busy Memorial Day celebration on the beach, multiple people began fighting just around 5 p.m. on the Beachside Avenue C before shots were heard, and deputies said. Witness said a man shot a black and silver handgun multiple times before running away. As a firearm enthusiast, I can tell you that if it was black and silver, it was a cheap-ass gun, because usually the only guns that are black and silver are cheap-ass semi-automatic guns or revolvers. So he wasn't a firearm enthusiast, I can tell you that. No one was injured in the shooting. Now, unless you shot up or down, not that I want anybody to get hit or not that I condone this, but the cynical person in me says, how bad of a shot do you got to be to squeeze off a round on Fort Myers Beach on Memorial Day and not hit anybody? That person needs to go out to L.A. and sign up for LAPD, because it hasn't been since a few years. Remember when that dickhead shot those cops and they were chasing him down? I think he was an ex-cop himself, and he was like in a black truck, and LAPD was out in the morning, and they found like a silver Nissan, even though he was like in a black Toyota, and they shot 33 rounds into a silver Nissan that had two Hispanic chicks that were on their way to clean houses. 32 rounds in the back window of a truck and didn't hit either one of them.
Oh my God.
So this person is right up there with LAPD. Southwest Florida Crime Stoppers released a photo of the shooting suspect on Tuesday morning. An updated version of the photo showing the witness recording the shooting has since been released. Deputies are investigating the incident and now asking for the public's help in identifying the suspect. Law enforcement is also searching for the witness to the shooting. He is described by officials as a white male. So that should be easy to find. We're looking for a white male on Fort Myers Beach on Memorial Day. We should have any minute now, ladies and gentlemen. So one more time, if you guys haven't done so yet, if you've never been to Laughing Comedy Club, first and foremost, shame on you, because we've done the Digital 410 Presents A Night of Comedy, where we've all gone over to the Laughing Comedy Cafe, and we need to do that again, Larry. But yeah, you guys need to head over to laughingcomedycafe.com and just go on the calendar and look for the headline LMAO. That's Laugh My Ass Off, for those of you who don't know. Network TV taping with Nathan Wallace, Larry Venturino, and Jamie Morgan. General admission price is $10. That's cheaper than a movie. And VIP seats are $15. And go and add to your cart and get those tickets now. And as I said, AJ Wilkerson, who's also been on the show before, will be there, as well as a handful of other comedians. So where else can you go and see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people for $10? Answer? Fucking nowhere.
Yeah. And it's a fun night, just a tape for for a TV, basically a TV show and stuff like that. So it'll be a fun time all along. So
one of when we did the A Night of Comedy with Digital 410, one of my listeners and his wife came up to me, and you, after the show. Remember that? He said, "This is our first live comedy ever," and they were blown away, and they could not believe how fun it is. And I'm a big proponent for live comedy. I want to show my age and me going back to technology. You know the first live comedy act I ever saw?
Who?
Harlan Wayans. I think. Who was the African-American comedian? His name was Red?
Red Fox?
No. He was, no, I think his name was Red. Anyhow, this was in 2003 at the Irvine Improv, and it was an America Online streaming comedy hour.
Wow.
And that's like back when high-speed internet was 250 megs down. So you can imagine the buffering fest that was. Luckily, I got to see it live. But, yep, that was the first time, and it was at the Irvine Improv, and it was for America Online's Night of Comedy. But if you guys want to see first and foremost, if you've never seen live comedy, this would be a great night to start. Once again, ticket prices are right. You can't beat that with a stick. And for June 6th, you can go home and celebrate the anniversary of D-Day, and then you can go out and wash away those hard feelings with some good laughs, because you're going to need them. And you can enjoy a night of comedy. And who knows, maybe you'll see my smiling face there too. Larry, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
If you leave whiskey in a barrel for several years, the whiskey will get better. But the same is not true for people.
Hit the wrong button, but that was well worth it. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to Larry Venturino. And Larry, where can people find you on TikTok? And are you still on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all at Larry Venturino. Website, LarryVenturino.com. So, yeah, check it out. And, I respond to everything. Like, hit me up on there or whatever. Instagram, different content than TikTok and stuff like that. I post a lot of stuff about my upcoming shows on Instagram, or some like funny memes, or at least I think they're funny memes. But then TikTok is obviously a whole different world, and I do a lot of weird shit on there. So
absolutely. Thank you guys. And as always, this episode of the What's in Your Head podcast is brought to you by our friends at Computers. Computers has been providing IT solutions for all Southwest Florida since 2003. Even if you don't live in Southwest Florida, they can help you with a remote connection via their website, with your permission, of course. So give them a call at 239-283-1120, or go to act-capecoral.com, or look up Act Computers on Facebook. For Larry Venturino, I'm Don Abernathy. Gordon will be back next week. Thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
This has been a Digital 410 production.